with women, it becomes this thing that we need to look a certain way, whether it's thinness, whether it's clear skin, blonde hair, nice eyebrows, beautiful makeup, big butt, whatever the trend is going. We think that that thing determines our worth and our value. And so when we are seeking a thinner body, clearer skin, better hair, we're seeking value and worth. And we're seeking it from what we think the world will think of us. And so I've learned to detach from that outcome. And that detaching from the outcome brings the outcomes to be faster.
So it is January 1st of 2025, a brand new year. It's also the very first episode of season 3 of the Clear Skin Chronicles. And I knew in my heart of hearts that the only guest I wanted to have on for this episode was going to be the amazing Kathleen Cameron, who is an incredible powerhouse of a woman. If you are not familiar with Kathleen, oh my goodness, buckle up because you're in for a treat today. She is an incredible manifestation teacher, author, and in just 4 years of business has done over $35 million in revenue. And I have been so grateful to be one of her students as well. And I think, Kathleen, as we mentioned off the top, it's just such a perfect alignment to have you on today because this conversation today can change people's lives.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, this work, this art form, is the most powerful work you will ever be a part of. That's for sure.
I love it. And so, of course, Kathleen, you're big into manifestation. And I kind of want to tell the story of how we first met because I'm such a big believer in the power of the universe and the alignment. And I use the universe language. I know you use God language, and that can all be interchangeable in today's talk. But, last May, I was asked to speak on a success panel alongside some other female entrepreneurs. And one of those other female entrepreneurs happened to be Kathleen Cameron. And I was there with Paige at this event, and we're standing there, and all of a sudden, this energy enters into the room that we're in, and it completely draws my eye, and in walks Kathleen. And what was really interesting about this is, if you know me, I'm a big fan of Skims. I pretty much only wear Skims. She comes in with one of my favorite bodysuits from Skims on. I happen to have a 111 necklace on, which is her angel number. We immediately recognize each other. And I truly believe in my heart that it was the universe or God giving us these two signs to say, hey, you two need to recognize each other.
Oh, yeah. And also, the address that we were at was 111 Richmond Street. And then when we left the event and we were walking down the street, it was like, well, what hotel are you staying at? And we were at the same hotel. So we walked to the hotel together. There was just so much synergy. But when you know that your worlds collide on purpose, you can't deny it. You can't deny that everything happens according to who you're being. And so your desire for more, it called me into your aura and your energy. And then here I was. And so it was up to you to listen to that nudge. And we both listened. I know it's been beautiful.
Absolutely. A quick little story I also want to tell before we get into the meat of the conversation is, I've been in this world of manifestation, law of attraction since I was really little. I remember being 10 and 11, my parents having the $1 million checks on their bathroom mirror. I read The Secret when I was 16 years old. So I thought I knew a good amount about the law of attraction manifestation. And when you're no, you need to come take Millionaire. You need to be in my course. I'm okay, yeah, I'm sure I'll learn a thing or two. I definitely learned way more than a thing or two. I feel like it was a completely different level of manifestation of this kind of work because I feel like I was just scratching the surface for close to 2 decades. And then I come into your world and I'm okay, it's if you're a Game of Thrones fan, you'll be I know nothing, Jon Snow. That's what I felt.
It's so true though, Katie, because the way in which The Secret and the law of attraction has been shown to the world so far is a way that is kind of acceptable. People, aren't as eager to get into kind of the woo-woos or the spirituality of it. But I always say manifestation is spirituality meets personal growth and development. So it is about you becoming an elevated version of yourself, not just improved mood. I think, mood doesn't manifest. It's actually who you think you are. But there's also the spiritual aspect of thinking about something greater than what most people think about. So it could be universe, source, God, spirit, whatever language you like, but it is that higher power. and using the law of attraction through your higher power to manifest. And it's 1:11 p.m. right now. I just, want to call that out
Stop. See,
as I
there we
said
go.
that.
As
Yeah.
you said that. And this is really the alignment happening, right? And I think no matter where you are in your life or what you're working on, whether it's health, whether it's business, whether it's relationship, whether, career, whatever it may be, this talk today can absolutely apply to so many of those different caveats. So, you come as a registered nurse, like you were top of your game as a nurse, you're, extremely educated in that field.
Oh, yeah.
And, how do you go from being the scientific driven nurse to this incredible manifestation teacher, which, there isn't a lot of scientific studies on manifestation in relation to what your brain is used to?
Yeah. Yeah. It's actually evidence of this work. And so the old version of myself that was a registered nurse that had the scientific mind, I was taught that. Like I learned it. I made a decision to learn those principles, those beliefs, and to live in a world that had to be observed to be real. And then when I started studying manifestation, I'm like, okay, hold on a minute. So now in order for me to get to this next phase of my life, experience this extraordinary life that I desire, I have to move away from the need to observe and move into a belief that it's there, even if I can't see it, which is completely different from the scientific method. We got to prove it through peer-reviewed journal articles to prove that it's real and true. And so I had to move into this place of being okay with no proof. This belief that, okay, so all I have to do is think from an imagined state and I can experience that imagined state. And so it had me adopt a different level of faith in my life to be able to manifest things in a different way. And it's not to say scientific method is wrong, but it limited me in my own life in so many ways. And so I feel like I've just taken the lid off of the jar. And now I have the whole universe at my disposal instead of just what was inside of that jar with that lid on.
I love it. And, something that I would love for you to kind of explain to everybody is, what do you mean? When you say imagined state, what do you mean?
So we have this beautiful thing called imagination. And when we were kids, we used to live from our imaginations all the time. We would be asked questions, what do you want to be when you grow up? And what game are you playing? And we would imagine and play with our dolls all the time. But as we got older and as we started to grow, we were told that that sort of stuff was a waste of time, that it wasn't important, that it wasn't useful. And so we stopped imagining. We stopped playing. We stopped dreaming. But what I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt now, and this is universal law, is that any idea held in the screen of the mind will manifest into the physical form by law. We cannot argue that the physical observed world that we see right now did not start in the mind first. You can't. You cannot prove me wrong. Every single thing began as an idea. Where? In the imagination, because they were things that we could not see, but we brought them in by imagining them to be. And so all these inventions, these things that we get to experience, those are all mental transmutation. And so now I'm just doing it in a scale now for my own life, for my clients' lives, for my kids' lives, saying instead of observing what we have, let's think about what we would love and call in that experience instead.
Mm-hmm. And, when you first taught this in one of your weekly sessions in the coaching program of yours that I was in last year, I had to listen to that a few times because it was a lot to digest when it's your first time hearing it. So if this is your first time hearing this concept, I recommend after you finish this episode, you're going to want to go and listen to this probably 3 or 4 times, because it really does take a different shift in your brain to start being like, oh, okay, I see what she's saying.
Yep. Yeah, totally. And I find too, with manifestation, it's about thinking from a new reality instead of thinking from the one I have. So if I think about the 2 realities I've experienced now, I spent much of my life being a registered nurse, making $100,000 a year. And now I'm experienced being an entrepreneur, making millions of dollars a year. So same person, 2 different worlds that I'm now living in. And so for me to be able to bring in and call in the imagined state, so me being a multimillionaire, that was something that I imagined in my mind, I had to let go of the nurse Kathleen. So I had to say, okay, I can no longer continue to act in these ways, and I have to start acting in these ways. So the imagined state becomes the realized state through my action.
And I think that's such a perfect thing because, Chris, I know as Kathleen was saying that, you're like, yep, this is exactly what our clients need to do. Because, Chris, from your perspective, what is one of the really big obstacles mindset wise that's holding the clients back on their acne journey?
It's where they are versus where they want to be and what they envision. And unfortunately, it's a little bit backwards to what you just expressed. It's okay, I'm inside the Clear Skin solution. I've been here for a week. Why is my skin not clear?
Yeah.
Right. And it's a little bit different. And you can tell people to visualize what they want. However, where their energy, I usually say where you place your energy will flow. So if you want that beautiful skin, why are we talking about the skin in a negative tone, in a negative manner? And I understand it's not what you want to see. So imagine it without it. And, it breaks my heart when they say, I've been suffering for so long. I can't imagine me without it at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're unconsciously committed to the idea of skin that isn't clear. And although you no longer want the skin to look that way, you're actually continuing to create it because it's comfortable and because it's safe. And so oftentimes, the more time you spend in the imagined state, so clear skin, the longer you visualize yourself with clear skin, the more comfortable you will get with it and the more likely you are to experience it. And we know how important the nervous system is. We know how important our stress levels are. So if you have clear skin, your nervous system is relaxed. Your nervous system is at rest. It's not in fight or flight, right? So that's where imagination lets the nervous system rest, which will actually then create clearer skin. The other thing too, and I'm going to give a health example because it's more in alignment with this topic. But for me, I was a plus size woman for most of my life, well over 300 pounds. And I had a belief system that I was flawed or broken, that being plus size was bad. I felt a lot of shame. I felt a lot of guilt, and I didn't love myself in the body I was in. And so I kept going on a diet, restricting, trying to fix myself. And I had a lot of negative self-talk, a lot of hate. And I walked around in that energy. What I was doing was just continuing to create that experience of being an unhealthy plus size woman who hated herself until I moved to the imagined state, not thinness, but self-love. And so when I started to fall in love with myself with the weight on my body, guess what started happening? Now the weight's releasing. It's been over, I think I'm down like 110 or 112 pounds total, but I fell in love with myself first. And I started acting like a healthy woman, no matter if the weight came off or not, because I went from the healthy state. So it's truly like, if your skin was clear right now and everything we told you to do had worked, what would you do? You would just continue doing it. So surrender, keep following what the experts are telling you to do, and know that one day you're going to wake up and go, wow, look at this. And then you'll never have that experience again. But you're fighting the experience of clear skin through your own thinking. And there's relief there.
And I think another, kind of tangent on that is, and it's something that you brought to my attention, is it's one thing just to say, I know you don't like the word, but affirmations. You prefer them to be statements of truth. It's one thing just to say them, but we can't just be saying them with no feeling, no frequency, no vibration behind it, and no visualization of that end goal. And if we're not doing all those things, it's almost like those statements of truth or affirmations are very surface level.
Absolutely. And affirmations can be very useful. But what I find the problem is we keep saying these affirmations and we never actually believe them. So what we're doing is we're affirming to the subconscious mind it's not true. So yes. I love the idea of statements of truth. And then I ask myself, okay, so if this is a statement of truth, so I have beautiful, clear skin. I have followed the program. I have followed what the experts have told me, and I now have clear skin. What would be different? What would be the way that I would act differently if that were true? I would surrender. I would love myself. I would just continue on with the recommendations like they were truth. And then I would actually be a match to the very experience. But the more we're like, oh, I wish I had clear skin, I'm waiting for my clear skin, you're from an energy of unclear skin. And so you're still you're affirming, but you're actually not affirming. You're proving that it's not yet the way you want it, when we got to ease into the final state of it.
Mm-hmm. And for me, I think the really profound shift, because I've been, I have affirmations everywhere, your statements of truth everywhere, but it wasn't until I really leaned into being in that frequency and then feeling the wish fulfilled at that end, I think is where that supercharged power comes from. Because when you go through and you have this visualization of, all of your goals achieved, and you put yourself into that state of energy, it like literally brings tears to your eyes, because you're really in alignment with that. And I think that is the missing piece for a lot of people.
Agreed. 100% agreed. And the other thing too about our appearance, and this is really interesting, because the world has taught us that our appearance is important, that it really matters to our worthiness, to our value, to our success. And especially with women more, now I am realizing men a lot too, but with women, it becomes this thing that we need to look a certain way, whether it's thinness, whether it's clear skin, blonde hair, nice eyebrows, beautiful makeup, big butt, whatever the trend is going. We think that that thing determines our worth and our value. And so when we are seeking a thinner body, clearer skin, better hair, we're seeking value and worth. And we're seeking it from what we think the world will think of us. And so I've learned to detach from that outcome. And that detaching from the outcome brings the outcomes to be faster. So it feels a little like a paradox, like, oh, so you want me to want it less? No, I want you to prefer it, but not require it. And so if you can prefer it, but not require it, like I would prefer that my body be a little bit on a smaller size, but I don't need it for my success, brought me all my success at the larger size. And so detaching from that outcome is really important, and self-validating along the process. The other thing I want to say, and this is a very, very powerful thing that I do, is no matter what I'm actually observing, I will tell myself a story that it's happening. So I would literally, if it were me and I was manifesting clear skin today, I would start on like a program or whatever and listen to your advice and start doing it. And right away, I'd be looking in the mirror and going, oh, look at them. They're shrinking. Oh, look, they're going down. Oh, look, it's getting better. Oh, it's happening. It's happening. It's happening. And I tell myself a story. And then if I started to observe the opposite, so this is law of opposites, before things come together perfectly, sometimes they get a bit messy. So it's probably the same thing with your skin. So as it starts to clear, it might flare up. So for me, I'd be like, it's flaring up. This must mean it's going to go away. Like I had the biggest contrast of my life this past week. We had a lot of loss in 1 week in my life. And I sat back and I was like, okay, the bigger the contrast, the bigger the opposite of it appears, the bigger the quantum leap is coming. So now I just sit back and go, okay, we're leaping, baby. That's what I tell myself. So it is a story that lets you ease into the experience. And if you knew the outcome was exactly what you wanted, no matter what, how would you show up? That's what I always ask my clients.
I love this portion here because for me, I think it's the contrast, right? Is what you're really going through. And this was something that I didn't understand or I didn't know. And I was never taught. And last summer, we were having a really big contrast. One of the biggest contrasts I've ever had. Things were not going right. It was so stressful. And I remember having like a borderline breakdown in a mall in Montreal when I was on my 10-year wedding anniversary of my husband, in tears. And I text Deb, my manifestation mentor, a millionaire. And I was like, what is happening? It's all so bad. And she immediately sends me a message. She's like, what if this is the contrast? And I was like, hold on, Deb, what are you talking about here? And then you shot me a text message a few hours later and you said, what if this is falling apart to come back together? And when you said that, it had, again, such a shift in my brain thinking, oh, right. When you pull everything out of the pantry to clean it, it looks like a hot mess. But when you put it back in, it's all beautiful and shiny and looks amazing again. And it's because you can't appreciate the beauty and the incredibleness without having experienced the contrast.
Oh yeah. Like the law of opposites is universal law. So there is always an opposite experience to everything. There's going to be days where you're happy. There's going to be days when you're sad. There's going to be the sun comes up, the sun comes down. Like there is opposites. And so you have to understand then in your life, there's going to be the opposite experience, which always means the positive experience is to come. And especially with this work, Katie, you know that we're going into the deep of it. We're going into your subconscious patterns and programs. We're going into your belief systems. We're going to shake it all up. We're going to rattle it all. We're going to pull it all back out. And then we're going to put it back together. And so the outside world will reflect that. And I think about the skin too. You know, there's all kinds of stuff going on there. And as you start to change the way you treat it and you treat your body, your nutrition, your health, everything, that stuff's going to have to come up to leave. It's going to have to go. And you're okay with that, knowing what the outcome's going to be. But when you don't know what the outcome's going to be and you're not in that faith, you go into the fear-based thinking, oh no, it's getting worse. It looks bad. But once you have perspective, you're like, stay the course. This is good. And so I always tell myself now that opposite, it is good. It is an open door.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you want to know what? I can report back now that we're through the contrast that you're absolutely right. It was just getting us ready for this really incredible, beautiful quantum leap. But I had to experience the contrast in order to experience the good.
Yeah. Yeah. And you had to let go of the old. Like you had to let go of that old version of Katie that had the belief systems, that had the identity shifts to step into this powerful version of you that can support a quantum leap, which is so beautiful. So I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, it was incredible. And I think when you were talking about that shedding of the old, like you had to shed the old Kathleen to step into the new, that's what so many women on their health journey has to do, right? Because they've clung to this identity that I'm a woman who has acne. I'm a woman who struggles, who doesn't feel beautiful. And it's like you're so comfortable in the discomfort that you cling to it. But in order to go into that next level version of yourself, you have to be able to shed that skin in order to step into the new.
Yes. And so what would the identity be that you could accept about yourself with the clear skin now? You know, it could be I'm a woman that used to have acne and has now cured herself of it. It could be I'm a woman with clear skin, you know, but if you're always holding on to that, there's so much in the subconscious pattern and program that's going to cling to that. So you're going to go back to old behaviors. You're going to go back to old nutritional patterns and programs. Maybe the old way you used to clean your skin or take care of it. You will go back because the identity didn't shift. So for me, the identity of health, no matter what, I will move my body every day. I will eat nutritious food. I will take care of this vessel because I love her, but because I've programmed the idea of health into my life. And being a healthy woman creates a healthy vessel. And so it really is the effortless way when you realize that the identity impacts the behavior. Change the identity, the behavior becomes easy.
And as you were talking, I see Chris being like, oh, yes, she's just like so excited over there because this is right in alignment with Chris, with so much that you teach to our clients. So Chris, another thing that we really notice, right, is the impact of the bullying, right? The negative self-talk and that loop that the clients get into.
Yeah, that's continual. I would say some people are a little faster, some people are not. And I always tell them, you know, it's their journey and, you know, it's each person's so different, right? So, you know, like Katie likes affirmations or, you know, whatever we want to call it. You know, if we have a real logical brain, I'll say, what about an affirmation? Let's ask a question to ourselves. Why am I so resilient? Because the brain naturally looks for an answer, right? Just for a little bit of a transition. And I said, and once we start getting to there, then we can start looking at what the appreciation is. But when the clients, I don't even love the word but it always comes up every time because this is how they speak, right? but, and I'm like, oh, there it is. I just wait for that but word to come in. It's around their, like you said, it's that identity. And if they didn't shed it, they're just going to repeat it. It's like, I've given up everything. I'm campfires and drinking alcohol and social events and eating an ice cream with my husband. And I can't do, and I can't do, and I can't do, right? That's the statements I hear. It's I can't do. So therefore they're putting themselves in deprivation. So I'd like to ask them, what can you do? What are you open to doing? Right? So what do you think about that when it's like the I can'ts?
Yeah. Oh, I have gone into deprivation mode for years and years and years in my life, especially related to food and exercise. Like, I have to go to the gym today, not like I'd love to. I would look at these people that would go to the gym by choice, and I'd be like, you're here because you want to? Like, you're not here because you think you have to? Like, you like working out? Like, are you crazy? Because I had a belief that I hated it and that I only did it because I had to. And it was the same thing with food. You know, I thought people ate salads to lose weight. So every time somebody would eat a salad in front of me or like vegetables, I would be like, oh, they're on a diet. They're trying to lose weight, not because they actually enjoy salads. So I had to really look at myself and look at my beliefs and be like, okay, I believe that I'm depriving myself. I believe that I'm forcing myself to do things. I feel like I'm taking something away from myself. Like, I feel like I'm holding back. So I go to a party and I'd be like, oh, I can't have cake because I'm on a diet. Or I can't have a glass of alcohol because, you know, I'm trying to lose weight and I don't want the extra calories. So all of it came from this feeling that I was broken, flawed, I had done something wrong, and these things were almost like punishments. And that's the way that I saw them in my mind. And so because I saw them in that way, I would force myself through sheer mechanical action or accountability to do them to try to get the outcome I wanted, which was to finally be good and have clear skin. You're good anyway, no matter what your skin looks like. But I understand the desire to still want it. And I still desire a healthy vessel. But I had to change my belief system about I'm going to do these behaviors because I'm a healthy woman. I'm going to choose to do these behaviors from an empowered place. For example, I don't drink alcohol anymore. It's been 2.5 years. I haven't had a drink. And I have never had a drinking problem or anything like that. But I started to look at why I drink. And I could not actually tell you why I did it. Did I love it? Did I enjoy it? Like, did I always feel good after? No. I was actually like, I feel kind of tired after. It gives me heartburn. It makes me flushed and tired. It costs $20 now, $25 for a drink when you go out. Like, things like that. Like, I'm just like, I don't even know why I do this. It's just because it's habit and it's pattern. So I accepted the identity of being a non-drinker. And I chose to stop drinking. I chose to no longer enjoy it. And now I go out and I'm not like, oh, I can't have a drink. I'm literally like, nope, I don't drink. So I don't feel deprived in any way. And I also convinced myself that I love salads. And I love them. It is like my favorite food. If we go to a restaurant, I'm like, oh, what's on the salad menu? Because I know that eating nutritious and healthy food is what I want to do. Not because I have to, not because I'm getting thin, but because it's good for me. It makes me feel good. It makes my body last a long time. It helps with my mental health. It's a choice. So now I choose to eat that because I love it. And I don't choose to eat the other stuff. And even when people are eating like a thing of fries in front of me, I'm like, ugh, that's just like heartburn. You know, it's just like upset stomach. Like I see it for what it is now. And I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. So there's a whole bunch of like mindset work around that. If you feel like you can't do something, you haven't made a choice. You're actually still caught in the old version of you when you can make an empowered choice to choose something from possibility and not from limitation. If you feel limited, you're going to forever feel limited.
I know. I think because I've heard you tell this story a few times, right? About your, hating salads and hating working out, but now you love salads, you love working out. These are things you get to do because you are a healthy woman. And it really comes down to these simple mindset shifts from deprivation to I am.
Oh yeah. And I always want to do things that empower me, right? So am I making this decision from love or am I making it from fear? And so before I used to like cut carbs. Like I'd be like, oh, I have to cut carbs because I want to get skinny. And if I eat carbs, then I'm not going to lose weight. That came from fear. It came from shame. Now it's like, okay, I'm going to eat some carbohydrates, and I'm going to eat some carbohydrates that are good for me, that actually fuel me, that help the brain, that help muscle reconstruction. And it's not out of a fear of what's going to go wrong. It's actually out of a desire to be what's going to go right for myself, which is a completely different way of seeing the world. So I don't feel deprived at all in my life. And if I do want something, I'll have it. And I don't feel guilty or no guilt, no shame about it. I'll eat that chocolate cake and just move on and not go the opposite direction.
Chris, I know, another big thing that we see is timelines, right? Is this isn't happening quick enough? How come it's not happening quick enough? And I'm sure, Kathleen, even with your own clients in all of your programs, you probably hear something, how come it's not happening? I'm doing the things, I'm doing everything right, but the needle isn't moving.
Oh, I talked about attachment to the outcome earlier, but there is this other thing, attachment to time, that so many of us really struggle with. And when we are attached to time, we are actually slowing down our manifestations. So if we go out into the future, 2 years, right? 3 years, 4 years, and we have everything that we want, do we look back and go, oh man, it took too long? No. We actually look back and we go, oh, I'm so grateful that now I have the business of my dreams, the man of my dreams, the baby of my dreams, the house of my dreams, the skin of my dreams. So I want you to go to that place out in the future where time does not matter. It does not matter how long it takes, as long as the outcome is what you desire. And then come back to today and be like, okay, I'm going to surrender. I'm going to surrender that the outcome is XYZ, no matter how long it takes. You're not asking to slow it down. You're not asking for it to take longer. Some people think that. They're like, oh, but shouldn't I ask for it faster? I want you to stop trying to force it. I want you to stop trying to make it be today. And I want you to settle into, have a calm nervous system, let and surrender, and know that it is happening no matter what, and you will get there. But your attachment to it happening fast is the very thing that is slowing it down. And so, Katie, like that example you gave us earlier about your business and being in the mall in Montreal, I can almost guarantee you were attached to time and you felt like time was running out and things weren't happening. And so when Deborah gave you that first thought that it could be the contrast, and then I just solidified that with you, you went, oh, so if I give it more time, I will observe the leap. And you let yourself let go of that. And that's where the leap comes, because that's the ultimate surrender.
It's not easy either, right? It's like we always tell our clients that changing your patterns, changing your belief systems, changing all of these things at a subconscious level is some of the hardest work you might ever do, because it's so deep ingrained in you, whether it's societal, it's in your family. And it's, you can eat the food, you can take the supplement, but you have to really get into that nitty gritty of what's going on inside.
Oh, yeah. And it's such a beautiful awareness too, because you can actually change your experience of life almost immediately. So I think about it this way. I would love, like, if I were to have somebody come to me and talk to me about this topic, about their skin, I would actually say, I would love for you to change your perspective about your skin first. So start to fall in love with the experience of who you are today. I want you to love yourself no matter what. I want you to detach to the outcome, and I want you to detach from time, and then call in the experience that you want. So to love the life you live today and then call in an elevated life, that is manifestation. But if you are in a state of displeasure, you are in a state of judgment about your current life, you are not a vibrational match to the life you want. You're in resistance to it. So first, it's letting go of that displeasure. You're not wrong. You are not broken. You are not flawed. There's nothing wrong with you. You are incredible, worthy, and valuable, no matter what your skin looks like. And now let's get you that clear skin that you so desire so badly, right? From that place of self-love. Self-love is one of the most magnetic energies. Living your life as your authentic self is the most powerful and magnetic energy in the entire universe, because you're not fighting up against yourself anymore. You're just self-expressing who you are, and you're proud of it, and you are feeling accomplished, feeling powerful, beautiful, successful, and then you attract those same things to you. You can't manifest love unless you feel love right now. You can't manifest success unless you feel success right now. So truly, there is a lot of surrender in this. And when you surrender is when all the magic happens. And so the clear skin is on the other side of the surrender, but it's there.
And I think it's because it's scary, right? It is really scary to surrender. It is scary to let go because it's the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you know, like I said before, you're comfortable in this discomfort. And it's like, okay, but like, what's on the other side? Well, what's on the other side of the fence? I don't know. How do I just let go? You're telling me all I have to do is let go and surrender and it happens. So I think it's just coming down to that shift in your brain about that letting go and the surrendering.
Yeah. And I think when you are in a state of faith, faith is the elixir for it all. Having faith in the outcome you desire, that it is done and it's a reality and it exists, will be the thing that'll pull you through the moments of contrast. So you had, Katie, this level of faith within yourself that was present, that was available, that had you reach out to Deborah in that moment in the mall to say, okay, what on earth is happening right now? You knew that reaching out was the moment of faith, because otherwise you could have just gone backwards and kept it all to yourself and never reached out and never had that awareness. So faith is everything. And the longer that you experience the lack of what you want, the harder it's going to be for you to develop that faith. But I just really want you to fall in love with the idea of your life, what it could be, the possibility, the potentiality of it. And what would the story be that you would tell? You know, the story would be that I had faith and it all worked out. And so that's where I always come from. I had faith and it all worked out. Everything always returns to great. I truly do believe that now. And that faith, it moves mountains. It absolutely does.
You know, you have a whole lesson on faith in Millionaire. And to be honest, I was like, I don't like, is this really going to be a lesson that's, you know, going to be as exciting as the other ones? It's just about faith. Like I went to Catholic elementary school. So I'm like, okay, like, what do you mean faith? And then when you did the lesson, even though it was so simple, I was like, whoa, this was such a profound lesson to dig into, because faith really is at the crux of it all.
It is. It is. And if you think about it, a faithless thought is futile. So if you're having thoughts, but you don't have faith in those thoughts, they're not useful thoughts. You're actually having faith in the opposite of that thought. So many people are in a state of worry. They're in a state of fear. They're in a state of doubt. And so when you're thinking from fear, you're thinking from worry, you're thinking from doubt, you will actually imagine worst case scenarios. You will imagine yourself getting sick. You will imagine your bank account going down, and you will call in an experience to match that. So all I'm asking is ask yourself what the best case scenario is. And what if you just had faith that that was the outcome? I'll never forget Chris, who is my business owner, the father of my babies. One day he called me and, it was something financial. I can't remember what it was. But he says to me, you know what? I made a decision. He wanted to call about this financial thing. And then he called me back and he's like, actually, I made a decision. And I said, what's the decision? And he goes, I'm going to have faith. And I was like, good. So we don't need to talk about it anymore. We don't need to try to work through a problem. We're just going to have faith that it's working out. And that ended up working out because of the faith that we had in it. So we don't need to worry. We don't need to doubt it. We can actually just create through the faith. Belief always precedes manifestation. So whatever you believe to be true will always be your truth.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it really comes, you just have to have that faith. Now, I know this is kind of on a different angle that we've been going, but I'm so curious to see your perspective on, those that struggle with their mental health, right? And I know I've even seen it in your program and in the chat, I'm struggling with anxiety, I've been struggling with depression.
Yep.
What is the angle you really take with those that are working through their mental health in relation to manifestation?
Yeah. So emotional regulation is one of the keys to manifestation. I always say that manifestation is an emotional game. So if we think about it this way, when we talk about law of attraction, we talk about like attracts like. But what are we actually talking about? We're talking about vibration. So the vibration that you are in every day, it attracts. And the vibration that you are in is actually emotions. So, we say happy. When you say I'm happy, you're describing your vibration. So when you're in a happy state, you're more likely to attract happy people, happy experiences, and you're going to notice and observe the happy things all around you that reinforce that story. So emotional regulation is a huge part of any one of my courses and programs. And even for men now as well, we're really, really starting to teach men how to embody their emotions and utilize them for good. But the biggest thing is teaching people self-responsibility related to their emotional state. And I have been a woman that has had depression in my life. I've been on medication. I have been suicidal. I had postpartum depression with my second. So I know what it feels like to be overcome with negative thought patterns and feelings of wanting to hurt myself. It is overwhelming. It is a dark cloud. And like, you can't even find a positive thought if you tried. Like, I know how that feeling is. But once I started studying this work and I realized that I control every thought, I control every feeling, and that I'm choosing it in every single moment. And I started practicing choosing. And I started practicing monitoring my thoughts and then changing my thoughts, choosing to contemplate on different things. I realized that I, before, was creating a storm of my own negative thinking. And now I create a storm of my own positive thinking. And I do it on purpose. So truly, one of the biggest things that people report in my courses and programs is actually curing anxiety and depression, and even autoimmune diseases, which is your body fighting its own body, which is the mind, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So it truly is about taking ownership and control back of your own thought patterns to create a new reality for yourself. And people have joined my program suicidal. And then within 6 months, they're like, I am so happy with life. I love myself and I love everybody around me. And like, where was this experience? I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you just had to learn how to create it from the inside out instead of from the outside in.
I think, and that's such a profound thing to be able to do and to be able to say. And for me, like when I came into Millionaire, was probably end of May of last year,
Yep.
you know, I am also struggle with my mental health, anxiety, depression, you know, suicidal thoughts. And I've been in those really dark places, like you said, where you can't even find like that shred of light. And, you know, by the time when I came into Millionaire last year, I was feeling a lot better, but I wasn't 100%. Like I was still having really bad days. And as the months went on, I started to feel so much happier. I felt more joy, more positivity, because I was choosing different thoughts. And instead of going down that really easy rabbit hole of snowballing how horrible everything is and, oh my gosh, and this is happening, and drawing more of that to me, I kept thinking, okay, no. Kathleen says, how would I act from my future self? How would I change this thought pattern?
Yeah.
And as I started to make these little shifts, months went by, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, I've been in a pretty good mood and pretty happy. And I don't remember the last time when I've been in a good mood for that length of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I can definitely say I'm one of those people that have taken your program and your courses that has changed my mental health. And I didn't do anything else because I was coming in being like, okay, I'm taking the supplements. I'm doing the gratitude practice, and I'm going on the walk, and I'm grounding, and I'm tapping. Like I'm doing that checklist of all the things I had to do, but I wasn't making any shifts in my mental health. And when I started really embodying the lessons and the teachings that you have, that's when I saw the difference in my mental health.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And it's really becoming aware of how much is my mental health and my emotional state dependent upon things outside of me. And we have been taught, that other people's opinions matter, and how successful we are matters. And whether people like us or not, it matters. And if people are kind to us, it matters. But I just got to this place where I realized that my self matters, and what I believe and what I feel, and self-validation is the key. So I'm not going to go seek it from you. I'm going to get it from myself first, and really, really give myself the love, the security, the care that I so easily give to other people. I mean, I've always been a caring, loving woman, and I will be your biggest cheerleader. But here I am talking smack to myself in my own head. So when I turned that around and I started treating myself with love and respect, it all started to change. And now I've really built this mental attitude where no matter what happens outside of me, you really can't take me out. Like I'm so convicted in how beautiful my life is and how important I am in this world, that no matter what happens, that can't be shaken. The other thing is I always now, I want to be a light for others. And so if I want to shine that light bright for people and be like that beacon of light, like come towards me. A lot of people call me their lighthouse. So if I want to be that lighthouse and be that beacon for you to come to me, I have to be that for myself first. So I have to show up for myself very, very confidently and lovingly. And now my whole human experience has changed. Like there's not much that really throws me off. And people are saying, oh, yeah, you got a good life, Kathleen. You're rolling in the dough. But listen, I just want to tell you, no matter how much money I have, I will be just fine. I will be happy. I will be grateful because I built that stable foundation in myself that no matter what happens, life will always be good.
And I think when you can really come from that development of yourself first, that self-love, the love for yourself, that's how you're able to build outward. And I would love, your perspective. Like, what do you think it is about our culture, our society that has us so stuck in this way of, of no self-love, of judgment, of fear? Like, what really keeps us stuck here?
Yeah. That's such an interesting question. I think it's just one of those things where we just teach each other based on that's the way that it's always been. Like, it's like the ham recipe I talk about where, this granddaughter asks her grandmother one day, can you tell me the recipe for this Christmas ham that they always do? And part of the recipe is to cut off the ends. And so she goes to the great grandmother and like through generations, they keep cutting off the ends of the ham. And she asked the great grandmother, like, why do we do that? She said, oh, because the ham didn't fit in the pan that year. And so for every other year, everybody just cuts it off because there's no reason. We just do it. And sometimes I think that's the collective consciousness, the collective way of being is other people's opinions matter. Keeping up with the Joneses matter. To love yourself too much is cocky and arrogant. I don't think you can love yourself too much. I don't think that's. And if you tap into the wholeness of who and what you really are, and you remind yourself that you are, in fact, a spiritual being having a human experience, you remember that a lot of this, the humanisms, the personal mind, the ego stuff, is because you're making it about you and it never was about you. And you can actually free yourself from human suffering. The human predicament, right, is this belief that, this person doesn't like me. And so I can't sleep at night because one of 7 billion people in this world doesn't like me. Like it's an inflated sense of ego. And I've just let myself go from that. I've changed a lot of my beliefs about a lot of things, other people's opinions, what they think about me in my mind. Really? Why do I care? I don't even know what they're thinking. And then when you start to believe that people are only thinking positive of you, wow, you start to experience, like I talk about some pretty controversial stuff and I don't get negative comments. I don't get negative feedback. Like people can feel my authenticity. And so I get authenticity back. I really do. But I had to change my belief systems about it all and teach myself something different.
Absolutely. And I think, that can hit home for so many people of that people pleasing, right? And this is another thing you talked about is, people pleasing is such a big issue, but it really is coming from that fear state. It is that fear-based coming out through that people pleasing. And I think when you can start to shift it and be like, okay, just because 1 in 7 billion people doesn't like me, does that mean my whole life is over? No, absolutely not. It's just one person's opinion.
Yeah. And the negative feedback has always been something that hits us harder. So we could have like 30 people tell us we're amazing. We could win all these awards. We can be a New York Times bestselling author. We can have all this success. And then you get like 2 negative reviews out of like 10,000 reviews. And the negative reviews stick out like glaringly, like they're awful and they hurt you. And it's, if we actually come from a higher spiritual perspective, that makes no sense. Like it really makes no sense. And so there is a place where you can just disregard. You can just say, well, I don't accept that as being truth. And the need to people please, that used to be me. Oh man, I wanted to make other people happy. I would get uncomfortable so that you would be happy. I'd sit on the floor so you could have the chair at the table, And I just realized now that that was just me being insecure, thinking that I needed to make you super happy so you would like me, so that you would be my friend, so I wouldn't be alone. Because being alone showed me how much I didn't love myself.
Mm,
So now I love being alone. Solitude. Oh, it's great.
mm. This,
So different experience.
this has been such an incredible chat. And like I've said at the beginning, this will truly be life-changing for those listening. And so, Kathleen, if someone's listening out there and they're like, okay, you want to know what? It's January 1st. It's go time, baby. Like, this is the year that I change my life. Where would you recommend somebody start, or just a few things that they can start with to start, changing those belief systems, loving themselves, and bringing in that life that they want?
I love the idea, and this is what I do with my team. I do it with my students. I love the idea of going to like the end of the year. So we're January 1st right now. Let's go to December 31st of 2025. And let's ask the question, where do I want to be? What would I love to experience by the end of the year? What is the story that I want to tell? And then remain committed to that story. I'm going to give myself this entire year to allow that to be truth. I'm going to have faith in it. I'm going to celebrate myself along the way. I'm going to notice the contrast and keep going anyways. And I'm going to believe that I am the version of myself that has it, even if outside circumstance isn't showing it to me right now. I think about the Wright brothers all the time. They had never, ever seen anybody flying in an airplane, but because they visualized it, they held the image. Now we all get to fly in these airplanes. So truly, even if you don't see it, I want you to hold the image of it by the end of the year and it'll be done. Trust.
I love that. I know everyone's like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm definitely going to go and do it, because you're just one thought away from a completely different life. And I believe that with everything in me, that when we really do start to change our thought process, operate that different frequency, we can have the life that we want to have.
Yeah. And we just got to hold the space and hold the energy and just keep going, because the quantum leap is after you think it's not going to be there. So you got to hold through the moment when it appears it's not, to know that it's on the other side.
I love it. Now, of course, everyone listening is going to be obsessed with you and they need to know where to find you. So where are you hanging out most?
I would say two places. My Instagram, Kathleen Cameron Manifest. That's where I share more of my personal life, personal stories, things like that. And then the YouTube channel has gone crazy. So YouTube channel, Kathleen Cameron Manifest, tons and tons of beautiful content. The podcast is on there too. So I would say those two places.
And I'm going to pop all of that in the show notes. So I highly suggest, if you don't follow Kathleen, go follow her on Instagram, check her out on YouTube, because this woman will change your life. Keep that open mind, make those decisions. And this time next year, you will be at a completely different space in your life. So Kathleen, thank you so much for sharing your time and energy and knowledge with us today. Like I said, this was the only way I wanted to start the new year.
Oh, well, I am honored. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And just remember, the limit does not exist.
Amazing. All right, everybody. That's it. January 1st. Let's do this. We'll see you next week on the next episode of the Clear Skin Chronicles.